Hey guys, Mrs. Fawn's here because of Mr. Terupt December. I'm excited to see what's getting ready to happen. Peter. Last month, Mr. T told us we had to read some stupid book and go spend time with the stupids. That was what I thought at first, anyways. That was what I'd always thought. The collaborative classroom was where the stupids went to school. I guess it was James who made me change my mind. I mean, the Summer of the Swans was okay, sort of, but the collaborative classroom wasn't what I thought at all. The kids were actually pretty cool, especially James. If something spilled on the floor, or if there was a bunch of objects spread out on the table, he could tell you how many there were just by looking at them. I mean it, he could tell you immediately, no counting required. No matter how many there were, 312 forks or 813 Legos, he always got it right. And James was kind of cool to hang out with. He gave me low fives, not high fives, because eye contact was tough for him, and we played games. I liked going to see him. So I liked Mr. T's next idea. He never ran out of ideas. Okay, guys, here's the deal, he told us in December. We're going to have a holiday party, like every other class, but it's going to be different. Of course, I blurted out. That's no surprise. I do that sometimes, open my mouth before thinking. A lot of times, actually. Everybody, even Mr. T, cracked a smile, because I was right. You'll form small groups and work to create a center focused on a certain holiday. It might be Christmas, Ramadan, Kwanzaa, or Hanukkah. Mr. T kept going with the directions, but I didn't catch most of it. I was thinking. Then I did that blurt out thing again. Hey, Mr. T, can we invite James and his friends to our party? Everyone was quiet and looked at me. And then Jessica said, That's a great idea. And the rest of the class agreed. Mr. T had a smile stretched across his face. He just nodded, and I thought I saw him wipe at his eyes. I don't know why he did that, though. All right, here comes Jessica, our playwright, with Act 4, Scene 1. I chose Ramadan as my holiday. I wanted to research something I knew very little about. I ended up in a group with Anna, Danielle, Jeffrey, and Alexia. Alexia wanted to be with Katie, Wendy, Natalie, and Heather, but Mr. Terupt didn't go for that. If he was looking for trouble, he got it. Our task was clear. When Mr. Terupt announced the project, he said, Your centers will need to include a research component, a game, an arts and crafts activity, and food. Your center will need to operate all by itself because you'll be visiting the other centers when people come to visit yours. My group started talking about who could do what, but Alexia didn't let that go on too long. You need to do the research, Jessica, because, you're the smartest. Anna's too stupid to read that stuff. Anna just stared at the floor. She used to do that a lot, but not as much these days. It wasn't just her head that went down this time. Her entire body sagged after Alexia's nasty comment. Alexia looked at Jeffrey next, but she didn't have the nerve to say anything. Then she smiled at me and Danielle. She got nothing in return from me, but I could see Danielle half smiling. Jeffrey and I collaborated on the research, while Anna and Danielle were in charge of designing the arts and crafts activity. I wanted to work with Jeffrey. I had shared my secret with him, and he needed another chance to share his with me. Anna and Danielle had done fine together with the plants, so I knew they would work well together this time. Plus, I hoped Danielle would become friends with Anna, despite her grandmother's warnings. Alexia named herself as our group manager. According to her, she was responsible for overseeing all of our work. Or as she put it, I'll just watch and make sure everybody's doing what they're, supposed to do. I'll be like our manager. I think she meant boss. We went along with Alexia's grand plan because it was easier not to have her involved in our tasks. But that wasn't good enough for Alexia. No, she tried her best to get everyone mad at each other. That's just what she's all about. Act 4, Scene 2. One day, during project time, I was meeting with Jeffrey and Anna, discussing how to put our center together. Danielle was nearby organizing the arts and crafts materials that she and Anna had been working tirelessly to create. Then Alexia made her move. Don't you guys think Danielle should be in charge of the food? Alexia said loud enough for Danielle to hear. I braced myself for what was coming next. I mean, just look at her, she's so fat. She must be good with food. Danielle hurried out of the room. None of us said or did anything. It was as if we thought pretending nothing had happened would make everything better. And it didn't. My turn to be hurt came next. Alexia didn't spare me. Act 4, Scene 3. Jeffrey and I decided that making a trivia game about Ramadan was the perfect way for people to learn about our holiday and what we'd researched. Sorry, my cat is trying to attack me. It took loads of work. We had just finished writing all our research as questions on the trivia cards. Enter Alexia. She must have just come from the bathroom because she wore fresh, shiny lip gloss and chewed on a new piece of gum. She paraded over to us with an exaggerated hip motion in her jean skirt and zebra tights, bent down and grabbed some of the trivia cards. She looked them over, but I don't think she even read any of them. She snapped her gum that she wasn't supposed to have. Like nobody's going to understand these questions. She stared right at me. Nobody ever understands you, not with all your stuck-up words. Like you just want to make everyone else feel stupid. You just think you're so smart. She flicked the card at me. That wasn't true. I didn't try to do that. Act 4, Scene 4. Enter Mr. Terupt. Alexia. I looked up. I didn't even know he was there. Alexia didn't either. She spun around, alarmed. I think it's time for you to follow me. He escorted her out of the room. They were gone for a while. Act 4, Scene 5. Enter Mr. Terupt without Alexia. Where was she? I need to talk to the 4 of you now, he said, looking at Jeffrey, Danielle, Anna, and me. We sat down in our project area. I've watched Alexia be unpleasant to all of you. I hoped that one of you was going to stand up to her and tell her to stop, and you didn't. I looked down. I knew I should have done something. I wasn't strong like the friends in my books. If you let people get away with being mean, they're going to keep being mean. You need to stick up for each other. Even Alexia isn't tough enough to make fun of you, not if all 4 of you stick together. I could feel Mr. Terupt's eyes on me. He leaned forward, trying to peer up into my face. He tried to make eye contact with each of us. We all just stared at the floor. You should be disappointed, he said. You should stand by each other. That's what being friends is all about. Still, we sat quiet. Anna wiped her eyes, and so did Danielle. Don't sit and pout, Mr. Terupt said. That won't help anything. You need to keep working. Learn from this and don't make the same mistake again. Exit Mr. Terupt. Act 4, Scene 6. What was Jeffrey thinking, I wondered? What were Danielle and Anna feeling? I'm never talking to Alexia again, Danielle said. Me neither, Anna added. That's no better, I said. We don't have to be friends with her, but we can't shut her out. We have to be bigger people. I looked down again. I felt as disappointed in myself as Mr. Terupt did in all of us. I wasn't brave enough. Luke. Our bathroom is positioned directly across the hall from our classroom. Who cares, right? I'd never thought anything of it until the day I felt trapped out there. I saw the shakedown, $word, shakedown. All compliments of Peter. I was in the classroom working on my holiday center. All my materials were spread out on the floor, and I was busy calculating the proper dimensions for my game board. Mr. Terupt was on the other side of the room, checking in with a different group. I didn't notice Peter. I stretched out on my belly and worked the math. The soles of my sneaks pointed up, a great invitation for mess around Peter. I never felt a thing. He's definitely sneaky. I sometimes wonder what's the likelihood, $word, Peter will grow up to be a world-famous thief. I had no clue anything was even happening until I heard the giggling, and Peter said, Hey, Luke, what kind of sneaks are those? Elmer's? I popped my head up. What are you talking about? Better be careful. If you try to go anywhere in those, you might get stuck. I looked back at my feet. Mess around Peter had struck. The bottoms of my sneakers were completely covered in Elmer's glue. You jerk, I said, without any real authority. Truth is, I didn't really care. It wasn't worth getting upset over. Besides, I'm sort of used to Peter's antics. I thought they were always harmless. I untied my shoes and placed them next to me, bottoms up, of course, until I finished my math. Peter's victory celebration was cut short by my easy solution. Maybe I don't get upset with Peter because I know I'll always outwit him. This drives him nuts, and I love it. Once I finished my calculations, I grabbed my sneakers and headed to the bathroom. Mr. Terupt was still busy with a different group, so he didn't see any of Peter's shenanigans or me leaving the classroom. I held my shoes under the sink and washed off the glue. Then I wiped the soles dry with a paper towel and put my sneakers back on. I pushed the bathroom door open and quickly jumped back inside. I was trapped. Mr. Terupt was having a conference with someone out in the hall. I pushed the door open just a crack to see who it was. "You've done it your way," he said. Mr. Terupt had his back to me. He was leaning forward, talking to the person against the wall. "And now you'll do it my way." He straightened up and folded his arms. He meant business. And that was when I saw who it was. Black and purple streaks covered her cheeks, a combination of her makeup and tears. Alexia crying? I had never seen or heard of Alexia crying before. "I like you, Lexi. I want some of your classmates to like you too. I'm trying to help. I want you to be friendlier. $1. I will not tolerate your meanness anymore." Wow, was this really going to work? "Go into the bathroom and wash your face. Come back when you're ready. Is there anything you want to say before I go back in?" Alexia stormed past Mr. Terupt without looking at him and without saying a word. Mr. Terupt let out a big sigh. And he shook his head. Then he walked back into the classroom. I wonder what he was thinking. I decided not to say anything about my sneakers. It really didn't seem that important. Mr. Terupt had more serious matters on his plate, like discipline. $1. I waited a few minutes before following Mr. Terupt into the classroom. I didn't want it to seem obvious that I'd been eavesdropping, but I was eager to tell somebody about what I had just seen. That's why I think I walked into the classroom a little rushed and wasn't really paying attention. Even if I had been, it probably still would have happened. I had barely walked through the door before I stepped in a puddle of water. My feet went up and my arms flew out. I flailed like an ostrich trying to catch its balance. Somehow I managed to stay upright after sliding across the linoleum floor to the carpet. Mr. Terupt was having a serious conversation with Jessica, Danielle, Jeffrey, and Anna, so he didn't see any of this. But Peter, Ben, Nick, and some of the other guys rolled around in hysterics. I knew what they had done, or should I say what Peter had done. He likes to put his thumb over the opening of the drinking fountain, $1, and push the button. It's another one of his infamous stunts. This one makes the water shoot all the way to the door. That was how the puddle miraculously appeared on the floor. Whether Peter meant to have the water on the floor, or if it just ended up there after he sprayed someone else, I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter. I didn't have time to do anything about it because someone else came through the door just after me. She must have been making her rounds, going from class to class just to visit for a few minutes. Today was her unlucky day. Mrs. Williams took one step into our classroom and hit the water. I felt so sorry for her. She was wearing a navy blue suit, a jacket, and skirt with high heels. She wasn't able to keep her balance. Her foot shot way out to the side as soon as it touched the puddle. I thought she was going to do a split, but then her other foot touched the water and slid forward. Mrs. Williams fell backward with her arms grabbing empty air. She landed smack on her back right in the water with her legs stuck up in the air. And that was when I saw my principal's underwear. I couldn't believe it. I knew I shouldn't keep staring, but I couldn't look away. We all gawked at her multicolored flower underwear. And that's not the best of it, or the worst of it if you're Mrs. Williams. Her underwear was a bit discombobulated. In other words, she had a wedgie. It was unbelievable. I'll never forget it, not as long as I live. I swear it. It was the day I saw my principal's underwear. Mr. Terupt rushed over to help her. The rest of us fought to keep from laughing. It was our principal, after all. Even Peter wasn't snickering. He actually looked nervous. "Mrs. Williams, are you okay?" Mr. Terupt said, helping her to her feet. "Peter, get some towels to wipe this water up." Why did he pick Peter? Because he knew Peter's antics led to the water being on the floor. I'm sure it was his way of letting Peter know that he knew. "I'm okay," Mrs. Williams said, brushing herself off and smoothing out her clothes. "Sorry for the interruption." She turned and left. How embarrassing. As soon as the door closed behind her, the laughter and whispers started. "Clearly, this cannot happen again," Mr. Terupt said. "We are lucky Mrs. Williams did not get hurt, or that someone else didn't either." I expect we won't have water pooled on the floor like that again. Mr. Terupt looked directly at Peter after saying this. Yep, he knew. He shook his head and then walked over to his desk. I thought for sure this event would be unequaled, dollar word, by any other for the rest of the year. Little did I know that something much bigger was coming our way. And the last couple times we've heard from Luke, he's kind of given this foreshadowing of something that's coming that's probably not something very good. All right, Alexia. Teach was like, Alexia, I think it's time for you to follow me. I went into the hall with him. He closed the door behind us. Teachers had done this stuff with me before. It was like no big deal. I didn't even give Teach a chance. They're being so mean to me, I blurted out. They won't let me do anything. Jessica thinks like she's the boss. But this is where Teach was different again. Wrong, he said. Stop. But, he put both his hands up. Just stop, he said. I was quiet. He looked right at me. You're lying, and I don't like liars, he said, and you're being mean, and I don't like mean people. I felt real tears coming. I didn't want to cry, not for real. I squeezed my teeth together and scrunched my eyes. I held my purse hard with both hands. You're acting like the meanest girl I've ever seen, he said. I couldn't help it. The tears just came. I was really upset. I looked down at the floor. I'm not being unreasonable, Lexi. I was like, yes, you are, but I couldn't say anything. I'm telling you the truth, and sometimes the truth can hurt. I kept my head down. I pulled a tissue from my purse and wiped my eyes. He was being a bully. I know you're not mean deep down inside, Teach went on, so stop acting like you are. Miss Kelsey has told me some amazing things about you in her room. He didn't get it. Nobody was going to be my friend. I know because that's how it was before. Kids made fun of me because of my clothes, because of how I talked. Leopard Lexi and Lexi like, they called me. And then one day in third grade, I attacked back. I yelled at some girl like Mom and Dad yelled at each other. And after that, no one wanted to be friends with her. It didn't matter that what I said was a lie. They ditched her and became my friends instead. Just like that, I became the leader. All of a sudden, I was getting all kinds of attention, unlike at home. Mom was around, but usually too upset over Dad, because he was never around to worry about me. And then last year, she hit her limit and threw Dad out of the house. Mom told me then, Alexia, don't let people push you around like your father did to us. You take charge and fight back. So there's no way I'm going back to being nice. Nobody's going to make fun of me again. I don't remember anything else Mr. Terupt said. I was too mad to listen. I hate you, Mr. Terupt. Jeffrey. Did it help? I asked Jessica one day in our Ramadan group. We were just doing some research on the computer. What? She asked. Did telling help, like I to B? I think it helped a little, she said. I stared at the computer. I'm listening, she said. You won't tell anyone? I said. I won't tell, she said. Promise. Because nobody knows any of this. I just moved here last year, halfway through the school year, and nobody knows anything about me. I won't tell, she said again. I'm not sure why I believed her, but for the first time ever, I told someone my secret. My brother's name was Michael. The football cards were his. He was older than me. He had Down syndrome and leukemia and was real sick, so my parents had me in order to save him. I could feel Jessica looking at me after telling her that last part, but I kept staring at the computer. They gave Michael my stem cells, special cells that can turn into anything else in your body, hoping that they would become what Michael needed. It worked for a while, but then he got sick again. He was in and out of the hospital a lot, so that's how I learned about kids with special needs. I stopped. The computer was quiet. Jessica hadn't pushed anything on the keyboard. She was listening. Then the summer before fourth grade, I gave my bone marrow to Michael. It was his last chance. Everything else had failed. I stopped again. My throat was tightening around the lump that was in it. It was going to be hard to tell the rest. What happened? Jessica said. It worked, but not fast enough. Michael got sick before his body could fight the cancer off. I didn't save him. The screensaver bounced around. I stared at it. And then Jessica said something no one had ever said to me before. It's not your fault, Jeffrey. I got up and walked to the bathroom. I had to. Anna. I never had a teacher stick up for me before. I'd get picked on and made fun of, and my teachers never did anything. Maybe because I never did anything either. I didn't cry or get upset, I just stayed quiet. Maybe it seemed like it didn't bother me, but nobody's got skin that thick. Mr. Terupt did something, and I loved him for that. He wasn't real happy about it, though. He wanted us to do the sticking up for each other. I didn't know if I could do that, but with Jessica and Danielle by my side, I knew I would try. Mr. Terupt was right about that. Things were much easier in our group after the whole Alexia incident. She came back quiet and remained quiet for the rest of the day, and every day after that. I knew she was feeling bad. A lot of girls had felt the same way because of her, so I figured it was only fair. But it bothered me too. Mom has always told me, we don't have enough days to waste being upset or sad. You got to be happy and have fun, Anna. I think Mom's positive attitude is pretty amazing, especially after all she's been through. And I think she's right. We weren't mean to Alexia, but we left her alone. I hoped she'd be different now that Mr. Terupt had held a conference with her. During the time we worked on our center, I found the courage to do something I hadn't ever done before. One day during recess, while doing some stick sketching in the dirt, I took a deep breath and plunged ahead. Would you guys like to come over to my house for a play date? I asked Jessica and Danielle. Jessica looked up. I'd love to, she said. She glanced at Danielle, who kept her head down and continued sketching. Danielle's really good at drawing, so I thought maybe she just wanted to finish her sketch. Snap! Her stick broke in half. But I'll need to check with my mom first, Jessica added. Me too, Danielle said, but she still didn't look up. Let me ask my mom. You don't have to come over if you don't want to, I said to Danielle. No, I want to, she said, looking right at me this time. I believed her. Then she looked away. I just need to get permission. The recess whistle blew. Danielle had drawn 3 girls holding hands in the dirt. I smiled. They both wanted to come over. I just hoped their mothers said yes. The holiday centers turned out great. It was a lot of hard work, especially with Alexia in our group, but Mr. Terupt took care of her. She wasn't the same after that. She became real quiet, which helped us get our center put together smoothly. Jessica and Jeffrey completed the trivia game. They came up with some really great questions. Luke loved playing it when he visited our holiday. He said he learned a lot from it, which Mr. Terupt was happy to hear. Mr. Terupt hung around our center because of the cookies. I made them even after what Alexia had said about me. My mom and grandma helped me find a recipe that used cumin, which is a spice. The 3 of us spent a lot of time together in the kitchen. It was the perfect opportunity to ask about going to Anna's. But I just couldn't get myself to do it. The best part about our holiday center day took place when our collaborative friends visited. That was Peter's great idea. Some of the games were hard for them, but we all helped. They were able to do the crafts and eat special foods like my cookies. James liked our craft project where you had to cut thin strips of paper and staple rings together to make a long chain. The chain is a calendar to help you count down the days of Ramadan, which can be 29 or 30 days long. Our chain included way more links than that because our guests kept adding them. 137, James said after eyeing the chain for just a few seconds, and then he started attaching more links. James really liked the surprise I had for him. I put together a collection of photographs of Middle Eastern farms and farming. He sat down and started talking about them and studying them. Seeing James like this made me happy. Jeffrey surprised us. Once Joey showed up, Jeffrey pulled out this little memory game that he had made with pairs of matching cards with different Ramadan pictures on them. He and Joey played. It was a super wonderful day. Mr. Terupt was smiling, and so was I. Jessica's back again in this chapter, Act 5, Scene 1. Hi, honey, how was school? Mom asked as I climbed into the car. Mom was great about giving me rides home whenever she could. Some kids like Jeffrey had to ride the bus every day. Mom's trying to get serious about her writing. She's already very skilled at it, having helped on some of Dad's plays back in California, but now she's writing for herself. That's why she's free in the afternoons to pick me up sometimes. We're lucky to have enough money so that my mom doesn't have to get a steady job right now. She can actually pursue her passion. I hope I can do that someday too. Mom did get a part-time job at a local bookstore so she can interact with people and keep her mind from wandering back to California. My mind still wanders back there, but not like it did a few months ago. My dad hasn't called again. School was fine, I said. I buckled my seatbelt and away we drove. Mom, you've heard me talk about Anna and Danielle, right? Yes, is something wrong? Mom stepped on the brakes harder than usual, and we jerked to a halt at the stop sign. I shook my head. Nothing's wrong, I said. I looked my way. Coast is clear. Mom eased off the brakes. Anna asked Danielle and me over to her house. Oh, that's great, Jessica, Mom said. Yes, but I know Danielle won't be going. How do you know that? I filled Mom in on what I knew about Anna's mother, and I explained why Danielle's mom wouldn't allow Danielle to associate with the likes of Anna. Mom turned right onto our road. Well, I'm not going to say no just because Anna's mother made a mistake once. We pulled into our driveway and Mom put the car in park. If Danielle is a nice girl, I bet her mother is too, Mom said. But we'll make up our own minds about what kind of person Anna's mother really is. Dad made a mistake. You didn't want to give him another chance, I said. Your father didn't want another chance, Mom said. He made that clear before we left. She paused. The divorce papers came today. I sat all quiet. Mom's bluntness really zapped me. I'm sorry, honey, Mom said. I'm sure your father will call soon. I shrugged. You don't need to lie to make me feel better. Okay, you're right, she sighed. I've always been honest and upfront with you. Another sigh. I don't know if he will call. And that completes Jessica's second chapter within December, and it also completes our entire December section of the book. So up next is January. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening.